All right, guys, I briefly want to touch on this topic of Seattle Seahawks Doug Baldwin. He just gave an interview saying that his knee is a chronic issue that is likely not going to be 100% at any point during this season. That means that he is likely dealing with either osteoarthritis secondary to some chronic wear and tear due to increased usage since he was probably in his early teenage years. He also could also be dealing with a acute meniscal injury, kind of the shocks of your knee. And when those tear, sometimes that can cause kind of recurrent swelling. Ideally, these do not heal well because they have pretty poor blood supply. And unfortunately, what happens is then in turn it leads to recurrent swelling. When it's angry, you can try a lot of rehab. Sometimes you can try PRP or stem cell. Sometimes you can do steroid injections, but the problem is they only last for a little bit and they're not ideal for the chondrocytes, especially in the knee, over a long period of time at this age. So basically what happens is you'll have to kind of deal with these bumps, bruises, aches, intermittent swelling, sometimes catching, locking throughout the year. Stay off it. He'll probably rest them 1 or 2 days a week to decrease the inflammation as much as they can. Maybe take something like curcumin and kind of go from there. I would definitely consider PRP in him. Unfortunately, it's a little later, and I would ideally shut him down for a couple weeks after you do it, or at least a week, which you don't have the luxury of time right now. So that's kind of what my suspicion is, what he's dealing with. I still have a lot of faith in him because he's definitely the number one wide receiver on that team. As long as this knee cooperates, which you kind of have to hope it does, then he's the number one wide receiver for a potentially potent offense, including Russell Wilson, who was number one last year in PPR leagues for quarterback. Really, Tyler Lockett, that's really about it. I mean, you have Carson, and then Graham's gone, Dixon's banged up, Marshall's a shell of himself. So that's kind of what you have. So I think he's the number one, and I target number one wide receivers on teams that throw the ball. That's what the Seahawks are. So those are my thoughts. Check me out on Twitter at Dr. Jesse Morse or on the Fantasy Doctors. Take care.